The gift that wasn't wanted. The twin moons of Zelvoria Prime hung low in the sky, casting a cold silver light over the grand palace. Inside the glowing throne room, music played and guests from across the galaxy gathered to celebrate. It was the royal coronation of Prince Thalor, the only heir of King Vorax. The king stood tall and proud, dressed in heavy golden robes, smiling as nobles from different alien worlds praised his son. But not everyone smiled that night. In the shadows, behind the crystal pillars stood Princess Lysara, the king's only daughter. Her soft purple skin glowed faintly in the low light. Her silver eyes watched the crowd, but no one looked at her. She was dressed in a simple robe, not like royalty. Her long dark hair was tied back, neat but plain. Why? Because Lysara had been marked long ago, infertile. The word had followed her like a curse since she was young. Doctors had declared her womb non-viable. The king called her broken. A royal without purpose. She had no place in politics, no chance at marriage, no reason to exist, at least in her father's eyes. Tonight she was not here as a guest, but as a gift. Near the end of the ceremony, the king raised his hand. "And now," he said loudly, "in the spirit of peace and diplomacy, I offer a personal gesture to our visitor from Earth." He turned toward the human delegate, Captain Eli Voss, leader of a small Terran exploration crew. He was tall, lean, with short dark hair and a sharp jawline. His expression was unreadable as he stepped forward. The king gestured behind him. "As a token of goodwill, I present my daughter, Lysara, to join your crew. She has no title, no claim, and no duties here. Consider her yours." Gasps echoed in the hall. Some aliens chuckled. Others whispered behind their fans, "They're giving her away like luggage." Poor thing, not even worth keeping. Lysara stood still, silent. Her hands were folded in front of her. Her face showed no emotion, but inside, her heart burned with shame. She knew this would happen. She had no voice in the decision. But what happened next surprised everyone. Captain Eli didn't smile. He didn't bow. He just looked at her carefully, then turned to the king. "I'm not in the business of owning people," Eli said calmly. The hall went silent. The king's eyes narrowed. "She is not a person of value here. You would be doing us a favor." Eli looked at Lysara again. Her eyes met his, just for a second. There was something there. Something wounded but alive. Eli stepped forward and said quietly, "If she wants to come with me, she can. But only if she chooses." The king scoffed. "She has no say. She belongs to the crown." But Lysara took a step forward. "I'll go," she said. Her voice was soft but strong. Eli gave her a small nod. "Then let's go." He turned and walked out of the hall. Lysara followed him, head high, heart racing. The crowd stared in silence as the unwanted princess left the palace with a human, by her own choice. Hours later, in a dark room deep inside the palace, a shadowy figure opened a glowing communicator. "She has left the planet," the voice said. With the human, a deep growl came through the speaker. It was the king. "Let her run. She will not go far." Aboard the Terran ship, Starwind, Lysara sat quietly in a private corner. The room was small but clean. For the first time, no guards followed her. No cameras watched her. Eli entered with 2 mugs. "Tea," he said, offering one. "Made from earth plants. Not poisonous to you, I hope." Lysara gave a soft smile and took it. "Why did you accept me?" she asked. "Why not leave me there?" Eli shrugged. "Because they called you broken. But I saw someone standing strong even while being thrown away." Lysara looked down at the warm cup in her hands. No one had ever said such words to her. "I don't have anything to offer," she whispered. Eli looked out the ship window, stars passing by. "Everyone has something. We just don't always see it at first." For the first time in her life, Lysara felt something strange. Hope. But across the galaxy. Her father's fury had only just begun. The princess learns to breathe. The ship Starwind moved quietly through deep space. Its silver hull shimmered under starlight. Inside, things were calm, but not for Princess Lysara. For the first time in her life, she was not in a palace. Not under guard, not surrounded by fake smiles or sharp whispers. She was alone. And free. Lysara sat on the edge of a small bed in her new room. The metal walls were bare. A soft hum came from the engine. There were no guards outside her door, no cameras watching her moves. She held a small datapad. On it, she had typed 3 words again and again. I am free. Then she erased them. She didn't know if it was real. A knock came at the door. Captain Eli Voss stood outside holding a simple tray, one with bread cubes, fruit, and a warm drink. No royal food here, he said, smiling slightly. But better than nothing, Lysara nodded. Thank you. She took the tray but didn't eat right away. Her hands trembled slightly, Eli noticed. When's the last time you had a meal without a servant watching you? Lysara looked up, slowly. Never. The next few days were strange for her. She walked through the ship quietly. The human crew greeted her with polite nods. Some smiled. No one bowed. No one whispered behind her back. No one laughed at her title. They treated her like she was normal. She liked it. One evening, she walked past the engine room and heard arguing. Power flow's off again, said a crew member. We'll burn the left thruster if we don't fix it. Lysara peeked inside. The engineers looked confused, studying a diagram. Lysara stepped closer. Your coolant valve is misaligned, she said. Model Zeta 9 has a known weakness in the center seal. The team stared. How do you know that? One asked. I studied royal ship engines since I was a child, she said quietly. I was never allowed to pilot, but I read everything. They followed her instructions. It worked. The engine lights steadied. Someone clapped softly. Looks like we've got a new engineer. Lysara blushed, but for the first time, it felt warm, not painful. Captain Eli later found her sitting near the observation window. You saved us a lot of trouble, he said. That system's been failing for weeks. Lysara gave a small smile. Maybe I do have something to offer. You always did, he said. You were just never given the space to prove it. That night, Lysara couldn't sleep. She kept hearing her father's voice in her mind. You are infertile. You are a waste. You are not royal. She got up, walked to the medbay, and stared into the mirror. She didn't see a princess. She saw a tired woman, a survivor. Then suddenly, she fainted. The ship's alarm buzzed gently. Medbot arms lifted her onto the scanner table. The soft voice of the medical AI spoke. Vital stable, no physical damage, one unexpected result. Captain Eli entered in seconds. What happened? The medic looked at him, eyes wide. She's pregnant. Time seemed to freeze. Eli blinked. What? Lysara's eyes fluttered open. What did you say? The medic repeated it slowly. You are with child. Lysara sat up, fast. That's not possible. I was tested. I was told I can't. Tears formed in her eyes. She held her stomach, too shocked to speak. Eli sat beside her, speechless. Is it human? She asked softly. The medic scanned again. Partially human, but strong, stable, alive. Lysara didn't know if she should laugh or cry. Her entire life had been shaped by the idea that she was broken. Now inside her grew a life no one thought possible, a life that would change everything. But far away across the stars, her father had just received the same report. His hands shook with rage as he stared at the message. The infertile daughter is pregnant with a human child. King Vorex crushed the crystal glass in his fist. Send the bounty ships, bring her back. The child must not live. The child, they said, couldn't exist. The lights in the Starwind's medical bay were dim. glowing soft blue. Princess Lysara sat on the exam table, still gripping the edge with shaking hands. Her eyes stared at the hollow screen in front of her. It showed something she had never believed she'd see, a small glowing heartbeat. Her child. Captain Eli Voss stood nearby, quiet, unsure what to say. I don't understand, Lysara whispered. They told me I was barren, that I couldn't carry life. The medical AI replied calmly, your fertility was chemically suppressed. Someone gave you false test results. On purpose. Lysara's breath caught. Her lips trembled. My father, she said softly. He made sure I was called worthless, that I would never be chosen to marry, so no one would see me as a threat to his heir. Eli's jaw tightened. He lied. To control. You. Lysara nodded, her eyes filling with tears. And I believed him. She stood slowly, holding her stomach. How far along? She asked. 5 weeks, the AI said. Development is healthy. Hybrid traits are forming. Eli moved beside her. You're not alone, he said. Lysara looked at him, truly looked, and for the first time she saw more than just a captain. She saw someone who had never once called her broken, never looked down on her. He had believed in her before she believed in herself, but far across the stars others were watching. In a secret chamber beneath the royal palace, King Vorex stared at a growing bounty report. Wanted, Princess Lysara, alive. Fetus must be extracted. He slammed, his fist on the table. She will not carry that child to term. That thing is not of royal blood. An old advisor stepped forward, cautious. Your Majesty, the child carries your bloodline. The king's eyes blazed. It is tainted by human filth. That child is a threat to my throne. He turned to his elite hunters, 5 shadowy figures dressed in black armor. Find her, find the human, and end this before word spreads. Back on the Starwind, the mood was tense. The news had reached the crew. Lysara was pregnant and wanted. Some whispered concerns. What if the child's dangerous? She's royalty. This could bring war. But no one dared confront her, not after what she'd done to save the engine. Not after they saw her collapse and still stand again. In the control room, Eli called a private meeting with Lysara and the ship's medic. We can't go back to known space, he said. The bounty will draw attention. Lysara nodded. I have a place we can go. An old mining station, forgotten and off-grid. I studied it during palace lessons. It's hidden. Eli smiled. Then we go. But just before the ship could jump, an alert blared. Incoming transmission. Bounty notice detected. The screen flashed red. A list of ships nearby began to move, fast. They weren't alone anymore. Eli turned to Lysara. If they catch us, they'll take the child. Lysara touched her belly gently. They'll have to go through me first. Eli grabbed the controls. Then hang on. The Starwind shot into hyperspace, but one ship followed. A dark, needle-shaped hunter craft. On board it, the lead bounty hunter activated a tracker. I see them, he said. And I see the Heir. Later, that night the Starwind flew silent through empty space. No stars nearby, no planets. Just quiet. Lysara stood alone in the observation bay. She held a small pendant in her hands, something she hadn't touched in years. Inside was a picture of her mother, long dead. I thought I was broken, she whispered, but maybe I was just hidden. Eli entered, stepping softly. You okay? She turned, nodding slowly. I'm not afraid for me anymore, she said. Only for him. She placed his hand gently on her belly. Eli felt the faint warmth, the life. I'll protect you both, he said. Outside, stars blinked in the distance, and behind them, death was closing in. The king's wrath awakens in the deep halls of Zelvoria Prime. Flames crackled in the royal war chamber. King Vorex paced slowly across the black marble floor, his golden cloak dragging behind him like a storm. His face, normally cold, now boiled with rage. On a hologram screen, a blurry image looped again and again. Princess Lysara, smiling, her hand on her stomach, a heartbeat flickering beside her, and beside her stood a human. Vorex's lip curled. She was supposed to vanish, he growled. Instead, she carries a threat to my bloodline. Across the room, 5 bounty hunters knelt. Their leader, Commander Draith, raised his head. We tracked the ship. Starwind jumped to the Virian belt. A dead zone. Likely hiding. Vorex slammed, his fist on the control panel. The screen cracked. Send the Royal Enforcer fleet, he ordered. I want that child ripped from her womb and incinerated. The room went silent. Then one old royal advisor stepped forward. Sire, if word spreads that the infertile daughter now carries the heir, half human or not, people will question your lies. Vorex turned slowly. I am the crown. Let them question. But no one will live to answer. Meanwhile, deep in a hidden mining station inside the Virian belt, Lysara stood near a small broken window, staring at a distant asteroid field. The place was cold, dark, abandoned long ago. But she wasn't alone. Captain Eli Voss finished locking the blast doors. If they find us here, we'll know before they land. Lysara nodded, tired but alert. Her body had changed fast. Her senses were sharper, stronger. Maybe it was the baby. Maybe it was fear. She placed a hand on her stomach and whispered, I won't let them take you. Inside the control room, the crew ran scans. One of them shouted, Incoming! Ship detected. Royal ID codes. They found us. Eli's face went pale. How? Lysara moved to the console. The king knows this place. I learned about it from his maps. He must have guessed. Eli turned to the crew. We prepare for evac, but we don't leave without her. Moments later, the walls shook. The Royal Enforcer dropship broke through the station's upper deck, blasting debris in every direction. 5 golden armored soldiers entered with pulse, rifles scanning for heat signatures. Their leader, a tall alien with white skin and glowing eyes, called out, Princess Lysara. By order of the crown, surrender the fetus. You will be taken alive. The child will not. From behind a broken pillar, Lysara replied coldly, Come take him, if you can. Blasters fired. Lysara moved quickly, using old tunnels and corridors to trap the soldiers. She wasn't just a princess, she had read every royal strategy book in secret. She knew how they thought. Eli and 2 crew members set traps using old mining equipment. Pressure bombs, magnetic pulses, smoke generators. One by one, the soldiers fell. But more kept coming. In the medbay, the ship's medic shouted, She's bleeding! Stress is triggering early labor. Lysara lay on the cot, gripping the edges, her face pale with pain. Eli knelt beside her. I'm here, he said. I'm not going anywhere. She breathed hard. I need to deliver him now, or we lose him. Outside, the remaining enforcers prepared to breach the medbay. But just then, the entire station rumbled. From above, a huge cargo shuttle, marked with rebel colors, descended fast. The medic smiled. They came! Eli stood and grabbed his rifle. The rebellion owes you for saving one of their spies, he told Lysara. Looks like they paid their debt. Rebel soldiers stormed the tunnels, clashing with royal enforcers. The medbay was locked down. Inside, Lysara screamed. The heartbeat monitor blinked. Then, a cry, soft, strong, new life. Outside, the rebels pushed back the last enemy. In orbit, the royal dropship retreated, damaged, defeated. But as it escaped, Commander Draith sent a final message to the palace. She gave birth. The child is alive. Back. On Zilvoria Prime, King Vorex stared into space. He knew the galaxy was watching now. Whispers had already begun. The infertile princess gave life. The king lied. The human child carries royal blood. And the worst truth of all? He was no longer in control. A mother's stand. A father's fight. The quiet hum of machines filled the mining station's medbay. In a warm corner, under flickering lights, Princess Lysara cradled her newborn son. He was small, but his eyes, bright and silver with a hint of gold, were wide open, alive, breathing, half human, half royal. A child the galaxy said could not exist, but here he was, a heartbeat in her arms. Captain Eli Voss stood nearby, keeping guard. He held a pulse rifle, his eyes fixed on the door. His uniform was torn, smeared with dirt and blood, but his hands were steady. Outside, the sounds of rebel boots echoed through the station. The king's soldiers had been pushed back, for now. Rebel Commander Heir entered the room, armored and grim. "You did it," he said to Eli. "The child is born." Eli nodded once, "and will die before we let the king take him." Heir frowned. "He won't stop, you know that. He'll send fleets, he'll burn planets just to erase that child." Eli looked at Lysara and the boy, then let him come. Later that night, Lysara finally stood again. She looked thinner, weaker, but her eyes had never been sharper. "He's not just my son," she said. "He's their fear, because he proves that their lies no longer work." She faced the rebels, in the war room. "You've fought the king in the shadows for years," she said. "Now fight beside me, in the light." The room went silent. Then Heir raised a fist. "You'll have our ships." Meanwhile, on the far side of the system, a massive royal war cruiser drifted in space. On its throne-like command chair sat King Vorex, watching the latest reports. Princess gave birth. Child is stable. Rebels involved. Resistance growing. The king's fingers tapped slowly. "So, she has taken a stand." He turned to Commander Draith. "Then we give them a storm." Back on the mining station, Eli and Lysara worked quickly. Using old mining drones, rebel tech, and human tools, they built a defense grid, turrets, shields, and signal jammers. The baby, named Kael, rested in a small pod by Lysara's side as she programmed targeting software. She didn't want to leave him even for a minute. Eli watched her, then spoke softly. "You've changed," he said. Lysara smiled. "No, I've become who I was always meant to be." The radar beeped. Enemy ships detected. 10 royal warships had entered orbit. Inside one of them, Vorex's voice rang over open comms. "Return the child, and you may live. Refuse, and you all die." Lysara stepped forward and replied, "You already buried me once. I'm not dying quietly again." The sky lit up. War began. Royal ships fired plasma waves at the mining station, but the shield grid held. Rebel pilots launched counterattacks from camouflaged bays. The Starwind darted through the crossfire piloted by Eli himself, hitting blind spots with precision. Inside the station, Lysara took control of the station's defense systems. Her hands moved fast across the console, calculating missile paths, guiding turret fire, tracking heat signatures. Every time the king's fleet struck, she struck back harder. But then, the main shield failed. A large breach opened on the station's upper dome. King Vorex himself descended in a golden war pod, flanked by guards. He was no longer just sending soldiers. He had come for his grandson himself. Inside the nursery chamber, Lysara stood ready with a stun rifle. Her son rested behind a glass shield pod. The door exploded inward. The king entered, eyes burning. "So this is the great rebellion," he sneered. "A filthy child and a traitor daughter." Lysara didn't flinch. "He's not filthy, he's the future." Vorex raised a plasma blade. "So am I." But before he could strike, Eli charged in. Armor cracked, bleeding, but full of fury. He tackled the king to the ground. The two fought hard, blade to fist, fury to fire. Lysara joined in, firing bursts from her rifle. Together, mother and father stood side by side, protecting their child from a monster who had once ruled their lives. At last, the king fell, his weapon broken, his face bruised. He looked up at Lysara, gasping. "You were nothing," he whispered. "I was," she said, "until he gave me a chance." She looked at Eli. "And now, I fight for us." The trail of blood and name smoke still rose from the battle-scarred mining station. The ground was cracked, metal walls blackened, and in the middle of it all, Princess Lysara held her sleeping newborn, Kale, in her arms. Beside her, Captain Eli Voss stood with scorched armor and bruised knuckles. The king of Zelvoria, once feared across the systems, now sat shackled, defeated, humiliated. Across the galaxy 100 cameras streamed live. The Royal Trial Council, long silent and useless, had been forced to act. Their screens showed the unthinkable. The broken princess lives. The human father stands beside her. And the child carries royal blood. A trial had begun, but not in a palace. It happened here, in the ashes of rebellion. And the whole galaxy watched. One council voice spoke. The child is born of 2 bloodlines, one human, one royal. What shall we name him? Another voice, deeper, said coldly. This child is a threat. His existence could divide empires. Lysara stepped forward. This child was made from truth, not politics. He exists because I chose love, not obedience. He will not be silenced like I was. Council Speaker Juno, a respected neutral from the star planet Valkareth, leaned forward. Then speak, princess. What is the name of your son? Lysara looked at Eli. He nodded. She held Kyle high and said firmly, his name is Kale Vorex Voss, son of 2 worlds, heir to none, but bridge to all. The moment was powerful, but not everyone clapped. On the council screens, voices from rival royal houses shouted, he's an abomination. He will cause war. Half-blood children cannot lead. Eli stepped forward. I've fought wars. I've lost men. I've watched planets burn. And I'll say this child brings hope. You fear him because you fear peace, because peace means losing control. Suddenly, a surprise voice joined the stream. Queen Alshara of the Southern Moons, an ancient rival of Lysara's family. She spoke calmly. I lost my daughter to King Vorex's greed. He burned her world and called it justice. But today, I see his own daughter rise with more strength than he ever had. She raised a hand. I vote to protect the child, to end the blood trials. Let the galaxy begin again. More hands rose, one by one, then another, then a full chamber. The final vote passed. Kyle was recognized by the Galactic Council, not as a prince, not as a weapon, but as a neutral heir of peace. Later, in the quiet nursery chamber, Lysara sat beside Kale's crib. The lights were soft. The war was over, at least for now. Eli entered with warm tea and a tired smile. You've changed the galaxy, he said. Lysara chuckled softly. All I wanted was to live, and raise my child in peace. Eli nodded. Maybe now. We can. She looked at Kale, sleeping, safe, strong. I was once told I had no future, she whispered. Now I hold the future in my arms. Far away, deep in a hidden chamber, the remaining loyalists of King Vorex plotted in silence. One of them whispered, the boy is alive, but he must never rule. The other replied coldly, then we wait, and when he grows, we strike. The galaxy chooses its future, 10 years later. The stars above the planet Virelia burned brighter than ever. Once a forgotten mining world, it now stood as the heart of something new, a place where species came not to conquer, but to build. In the center of its capital stood a tall silver tower, marked with 2 symbols, the human circle of Earth and the royal crest of Zelvoria. Together, they represented the impossible, a peace that was never supposed to exist. Inside the tower, a crowd gathered in silence. Leaders, soldiers, civilians, and children from every corner of the galaxy stood, side by side. Today was not a war, it was Kale's day. On a wide stage stood Lysara, graceful and calm, dressed in flowing white robes. Age had added wisdom to her face, but her eyes were still sharp and her voice steady. Beside her stood Captain Eli Voss, now retired from war, his old scars faded but never forgotten. And in the center stood their son, Kale Vorex Voss. 10 years, old, calm, quiet, with silver and gold eyes, glowing softly under the twin suns, a child once hunted, now a symbol of hope. Kale stepped forward as the ceremonial bell rang. The crowd waited. He spoke slowly, clearly, his voice young but firm. I was born in battle. I was raised in peace. I carry blood that once ruled, and blood that once rebelled. He looked across the crowd. But I choose my own path. He held up a small glowing stone, cut from the same crystal mines where his mother had once been trapped. This is from the old world, he said. A world that judged by blood, not heart. He crushed it in his hand. The dust blew into the wind. And that world ends. Today, the crowd erupted in cheers. Tears flowed. Enemies became allies. And across the stars, screens lit up with his speech. The boy lives. He speaks for all of us. Maybe there is still hope. But peace never comes without shadows. In the far corners of space, hidden groups watched the celebration. One figure cloaked in black whispered into a communicator. He grows strong. Too strong. When he becomes a man, we must be ready. Another replied, let him unite the galaxy. We'll destroy it once he does. Back on Veralia, the day continued. Kale walked beside his parents, smiling as alien children ran up to him, some with horns, some with wings, some human, some not. To them, too, he was not royalty, he was a friend, a future. Later, under the stars, Eli and Lysara sat on the edge of a small garden balcony. They watched their son laugh in the courtyard, surrounded by joy. Eli took her hand. Can you believe it? Lysara smiled. Sometimes I wonder if I'm still dreaming. You're not, Eli said. You changed everything. She looked at him. No, she whispered. We did. Above them the sky shimmered with thousands of lights, ships from every race drifting in peace. And in that moment the galaxy itself seemed to whisper a single truth. One human gave a forgotten princess a chance. And together, they gave the galaxy a choice, to fear the future or to build it. Who